What's good, everyone? Welcome back to the channel. Today I'll be going through my round 11 AFL tips and predictions. Before we do get into my tips, as always, we'll review round 10 and have a look at the score I got, which was a decent score of 7 out of 9. I'm in the top 19%, but there is one tip that I made last week that is really gonna play with my mind, that is for sure. So let's quickly have a look at what we did in round 10. We'll go through the tips. I went for Port Adelaide in the first game, which is a pretty good one considering that a lot of people did tip Melbourne. I think more people did tip Melbourne. I only was 8 points off the margin as well, so a good start. I went the Swans in a game where they probably didn't deserve to win, but I'll just take the tip, and we'll talk about more about that game later on. The Dogs got the win against the Crows. I was happy about that one. A lot of people that I knew also went the Crows. First incorrect tip, that was fair. That I have to cop on the chin. I probably underestimated how badly Geelong's injuries were, and Freo are actually decent now. They were too good for Geelong. They really were. The Brisbane Lions got the job done easily. That was an easy tip. And then Essendon, probably the best tip of the whole round, to be honest with myself. A lot of people went Richmond. I just had a feeling they were going to break that streak, in which they did. And then on the Sunday, that was a tip that really just... I don't know what I was thinking, that West Coast would actually upset them. I mean, before the game started, I thought there were maybe a chance, but the fact they went down by 116, that was the first time where I've tipped a side that has lost by over 100, and probably the only time it's ever going to happen. It was completely ridiculous. And then the next two games were correct. Collingwood to win it, and the Saints to win it. But yeah, I just can't get over that West Coast tip. That is crazy. Genuinely crazy. Speaking of genuinely crazy, I don't think my big calls this round were very good. And Port Adelaide v Melbourne, I said that both sides would score 4 or more goals and behinds. I really should have checked the weather radar because it was never going to happen with the conditions that the game was played in. I was actually lucky it was as accurate as it was, but yeah, obviously didn't get it right. I think Melbourne kicked 1 more goal than behinds, and the Power kicked 3 more behinds and goals, so it didn't happen, obviously. But what did happen in the next game was Northy v the Swans. I said that North Melbourne would record their highest score of the season, which was, I think, more than 87, 88. They recorded 90. The Dogs v Adelaide, in that one, I said that the Dogs would record 5 more consecutive goals, and I really should have got it right. I think there was a stage where they had 4 in a row, and they just kept missing shots, like from point-blank range. I was really disappointed that I didn't get that one right. Didn't get that one right, and then the next one, probably my worst one of the year, I said that Jeremy Campbell would score 6 or more goals. It was the first game this season we didn't even kick a single goal. He scored 0 goals, 4, so it was a dirty day for Jeremy Cameron. And then the next one was pretty bad as well. I said that the Suns would have more inside 50s than Brisbane, and the Lions dominated the inside 50s. They had 21 more inside 50s than Gold Coast. It was shocking, a shocking call. And for the Essendon Richmond game, I said that the Bombers kicked 5 of the first 7 goals. I was close with that one, but they scored 4 of the first 7, so not quite there. Maybe the worst one, I don't know. There were a few bad ones this round. And West Coast v Hawthorn, I said that Oscar Allen would kick 3 or more second half goals. Not only did he not kick 3 or more second half goals, the Eagles didn't even kick 3 or more second half goals. The Eagles didn't even kick a single second half goal. It was that bad, like genuinely. I said that Collingwood would be up by 48 or more points at any stage. The highest lead was 44, so pretty close. And then the Giants v St Kilda, I said the Saints would be up for 80 or more % of the game. And we were up for majority of it, I think 68% though, so not quite 80. So I only got 1 correct out of 9, which means another punishment needs to be built up. It was again, while Geordie with the most likes, 145. And this is to make your own printout advertising for your YouTube channel and go to Southland or anywhere really and be one of those annoying hand-out people. Now, I know I've got a lot in the pile that I still need to do. Haven't filmed one yet because I was just really busy on the weekend. But Nick is coming to Melbourne, I think around 13. You would have remembered maybe last year where we got a heap of punishments filmed. I think 4 of them done when Nick was here. I think the same's probably going to happen again. It's just funnier with Nick around, and I think this is certainly one I can get with Nick where he does it as well, advertising his channel. So yeah, for the big calls, I know I got a lot to do, but when Nick comes to Melbourne, a lot of them will be crossed off. So just wait for that. I think that's the week of round 13. So for 14 tipping video, there'll be a few punishments filmed. Jesus, what a tough game to start off with. Sydney take on Carlton at the SCG. Probably the toughest game to tip all year, and I've said it a few times with the Carlton games, but it just gets even more difficult. These two sides are in desperate need for a win. They've been the 2 most disappointing or underwhelming sides I feel like so far this season, that's for sure. The 2 sides that I thought would make finals. Sydney on the weekend, they were extremely lucky to get the 4 points in a game where I didn't think they deserved to win, to be honest with you. They were certainly, in my opinion, the second-rate side for a lot of the game. That last quarter when North Melbourne were just getting on top, Sydney just could not get anywhere near the ball in the midfield. I think North Melbourne won the clearances by quite a bit through an interchange infringement. We've never seen it in the AFL before, but I can't say North were robbed, even though the umpiring wasn't great. Obviously favouring Sydney, but you know that last call was there. It was a rule. It was just very unlucky. Sydney escaped the bullet. They should be 3-7 to be honest, but they're 4-6. Season's still on track. Carlton, season's almost gone for theirs. I mean, if they want to make finals, they can still make finals, but if they want to be any chance to 4, I'd say certainly not now. they're just an average footy side, the Blues. You know, I expected maybe they'd pull up a bit of a fight against Collingwood, possibly, although I did say that it wouldn't be the case, and I'm right. It didn't happen. The game was over at quarter time against Collingwood. They're just a second-rate side compared to the Pies, and I just don't understand why. I almost feel like the Carlton, quality-wise, almost have a better list than Collingwood. They just can't get things going. So many plays out of form. Cripps had another average game. He's not had a great season. Mackay just wasn't quite there yet. He was better, I guess, but not really quite there. Wiedering is a shell of his former self. So many plays out of form. So just, I don't know. I don't know what's up with Carlton at the moment. They're in desperate need of a win. They got to pull something out their ass in the second half of the season here. I don't know who to tip. Maybe the Swans because it's the SCG, but, you know, they haven't won a game at the SCG since, I think they beat Hawthorn. So we're going to go the random wheel spinner. Let's actually go for the random wheel spinner to see who we're going to tip. For the first time this round, we're doing the random wheel spinner, and it's going to land on Carlton. I'm going Carlton by 6 in a real 50-50 game where I had to use a spinner for the wheel. Anything could happen. Carlton, Sydney both need a win. Next up, the Saturday games. We start with the Saints taking on the Hawks at Marvel. Both sides recorded good wins. Hawthorn's win was probably the most astounding of the round, just when you think, like, just look at it at face value. The fact that they, I think, were sitting 18th the ladder. They might have been last on the ladder, and I think it's the second highest win from a side bottom of the ladder, and the fact that that was in round 10 is remarkable, really. I really thought that if any side was a tank, not saying West Coast necessarily did, but if any side were to possibly take this one a little bit easier, Hawthorn, I thought they really wanted Harley Reid, but I guess he's not worth it when you can beat West Coast by 116. Kicking 8 goals in the last quarter, restricting West Coast to not score a goal in the last half. Obviously, Mitch Lewis kicked 6. Josh Weddle, he got the rising star with 2 goals and 28 touches. And now after that performance, we can see that Hawthorn, you know, it seems like they've got a sort of a direction where they're heading, as opposed to West Coast. I really have no idea what's going on with them. And obviously, St Kilda got a good win on the weekend, back on the winners list. We needed that win. It wasn't easy, though. It's always hard against the Giants. They always take it up to a lot of teams, especially away from home. Saints were a little bit too classy at the end. Bit of a mature way to finish out that game. Good to see Max King back on the track, kicking 4. Great return. Sinclair, one of his best games all year. All career, really. 37 touches and 2 goals. A game where I could see Hawthorn really taking it up to us, but again, St Kilda are pretty good against Hawthorn historically. We score quite well against them. So I think St Kilda should win it by 38, and I think we'll score our highest score this season. With Max King back, scoring should be back on against Hawthorn. We'll score more than 113 or more points. That's my big call. Next up at the MCG on the 2:10 time slot, we've got Melbourne take on Fremantle. This is interesting. Really, really intriguing contest because the Dockers, they're back. I feel like they're actually back. They've had a really good last 3 weeks against some decent sides when you think about it. I mean, the last 2 teams, I guess, at the moment, form-wise, aren't the best, but they both played off for the grand final last year, Fremantle. Geelong and Sydney. So, you know, Fremantle are looking pretty good after their shocking 2-5 start after the Brisbane game. They're 5-5 now. Another tough performance, but, you know, they're now able to score, and they've been scoring pretty well in the last 3 games, all score over 100. It seems like their connection between the midfield and forward lines looking good. Brayshaw and Sarong, especially Brayshaw now back into form. It's good to see. A missed kick 3. They're looking good, Fremantle, at the moment, and they could win this game. But I feel like Melbourne, to be honest with you, were a little bit lucky to only lose by 4. It could have been a lot worse because I thought they were the worst side for 3 of the 4 quarters. They had one good quarter, really, in the third where they kicked like 5 or 6 in a row, which was where I thought they were just going to take the game away from Port and win it pretty comfortably. But yeah, they just didn't look great, especially in the first half, down by 14. I thought they should have been down by a lot more. They were just second to the ball, rushing the kicks. They seemed off it a little bit, Melbourne. But yeah, they didn't end up getting the win. Lost it by 4. I think the safer tip for this one would be to go the D's against the Dockers. I could see a world where Dockers win this, but I'll be safe. I think it'll be close. But Melbourne win it by 8. My big call, the Dockers lead for longer than Melbourne. And next up at GMHBA Stadium, we've got Geelong taking on the Giants. 2 sides that were both losers on the weekend. Excuses for both sides in a way, especially Geelong. I guess, you know, their injuries are just continuing to pound and get worse. Another one now, I had a look at on my feed. Maxi Holmes out for an extended period of time, so they can't really catch a break with all their injuries at the moment, the Cats. But again, you know, it gives a chance for other players to step up and play their role, which I guess they haven't really been doing. And every side goes through, you know, patches of form like this injury-wise. So I just don't know about Geelong this year. They're not anywhere near their best as they were last year. And their midfield is in a world of hurt now. Their most recorded touches on the weekend against the Dockers was 19. They were just smashing the midfield, smashing the clearances, only recorded 280 disposals. So yeah, they just couldn't find their hands on the footy, and that's going to hurt them. The Giants, they were pretty decent against the Saints. Like, they always seem to be pretty decent, a plucky side, but can just never get over the line. They just don't have that I don't know, that X factor about them to actually win those games or find the result. I don't think the Giants this year are getting the reward for their effort, because I don't think they've been as bad as a bottom 4 side would suggest, but they're still sitting 15th. Do I give them a chance against the Cats, who aren't going so great? Not really. It's a GMHBA. I think Geelong will win the game by, I'm going 30 points with my big call that the Cats lead for 90% or more of the game. Next up, we've got the 2 Saturday games. The first one, the better one, the one I'll probably straight. The Suns take on the Dogs at TIO Stadium in Darwin. Now, the Suns at the moment, they're going okay. They're sort of in a mixed bag form-wise. I thought they would maybe play a little bit better against Brisbane, and I thought they were pretty good for 3 quarters. They seem to be slightly second rate, but seem to be in the contest, and then that last was a bit disappointing, conceding 6 goals to only the 1. And I guess it seems to be the same situation for Gold Coast. In the contest for a lot of it, Brisbane could take control of the last quarter and win it comfortably. The Bulldogs, they're going really well though. 5 wins in a row, or is it 6? Yeah, it might be 6 actually, and they dismantled Adelaide. I thought they'd get the win, but I thought it'd be a lot closer than what it was. They just got the job done in the midfield. The Dogs are certainly starting to play for each other, as opposed to the individual, which we saw at the start of the season. They all have their own roles in the midfield. The 4 line seemed to be pretty functional. In a way. The goal king was pretty poor. I think 19 behinds, record up until 3/4 time. So, yeah, if the goal king was a little bit better for the Dogs, I know it was a Mars, windy day. Yeah, they probably should have won the game by 10+ goals. The way that the game was played out, it was a 10+ goal margin. And I think they will win it. I don't think it'll be a blowout. I think it'll be a relatively tough, contested battle, or maybe low scoring because it's in Darwin, a bit dewy. But for mine, the Dogs win it by 16 points. My big call on Indigenous round. Artie Jones kicks 3 or more goals. Next up, we've got West Coast taking on Essendon at Optus. And after last week, this should be the easiest game to tip all round. I think it's as simple as that. We'll start off with Essendon. Remarkable win. They seemed out of it at stages in that last quarter. But they just found a way to wheel themselves over the line. A few big moments in that game. I think that Zach Merritt tackle on Dustin Martin showed that the Bombers really wanted to fight and get that win, because it's been 9 years since they've beaten the Tigers. So the fact that they've, broken that drought, I think 13 games it was, the Bombers haven't won against the Tigers. And I did predict them to win this game, so I was really glad to see them get over the line. Sammy Duran, the hero, winning the game on 1 point. The Bombers should be very happy that their season's now still alive. On the other hand, West Coast, they're in the worst position I think I've seen a club in a very, very long time. Like, I have no idea what's going with West Coast, because you just can't be losing by that much against the bottom side. There's just no competitiveness. I know injuries always are brought up, but, a lot of sides have injuries, but still at least show the fight and competitiveness. There was no fight. There was nothing in that, especially that last quarter from West Coast. It was terrible. It seems to me that West Coast could honestly lose any game by 100 points after last week, and it could happen again this week. I mean, the odds for this game last week were $4.06 to the West Coast. It's now 11. It's an indictment of how poor they've been so far this season. Essendon will win it comfortably, and I'm going a 77-point win. My big call, they've recorded 12 or more individual goal scorers. Now, I've got a few interesting games on the Sunday. We first off start at the MCG between Richmond and Port Adelaide. Now, obviously, the recent news has broken out that David Hardwick has quit his role as the coach of Richmond, which is pretty shocking, to be honest with you. Like, I don't know if it had anything to do with the result against Essendon, but definitely a very unexpected decision, so randomly in round 10 for that to be made. We'll quickly talk about Richmond. I thought they probably should have won the game in the position they were in. They were up by 3 goals in that last quarter. I think Mansell had a shot when they're up by 5 to put them up by 11. He didn't score. They made countless errors. I thought the Tigers in that game, where they really should have, either converted into goals or just silly plays. And it's something that's concerning now, Richmond. I thought they were actually a decent side, the close ones in their premiership era. Their last 12 games decided by under 6 goals. They haven't won a single game. Port Adelaide, on the other hand, they're looking really, really good at the moment. 7 wins in a row. They're looking prime for a possible top 4 spot this season. And it was probably one of their biggest or best wins I've ever seen from the Power in a good, probably 2 or 3 years. A statement victory, to be honest, against, one of the premiership favourites for sure. It'll be a tough one to predict, because Port Adelaide, even though they've been in much better form than Richmond, for one, interim coaches normally play pretty well, and I think the Richmond will want to win this game for Dimmer. And Port Adelaide, they don't play well at the MCG, and historically also against Richmond, they just don't seem to play very well there. Obviously getting smashed against Collingwood early this season, but just in general, I think this is a tough one to predict. I think current form-wise, you go Port Adelaide, but on all other factors, I'm actually going to go Richmond this one for my first sort of upset call of the round. I think Richmond get the job done for Dimmer by 11 points. My big call, they record 5 more goals than behind. Next up on the 3:20 PM time slot, we've got Collingwood and North Melbourne at Marvel Stadium. Now, this should be a pretty easy tip to go for. One side first on the ladder, the other side 17th on the ladder. Collingwood just continuing to impress. Now, they've got 6 on the trot now, and they just easily counted for Carlton. Like, I don't even think they play their very best footy. Obviously, Darcy Moore robbed of the record, 11 intercept marks it was, and then they recounted it, only recorded 10, so an equal record for Darcy Moore, but he was, you know, brilliant as a captain. They just played a good game of footy, Collingwood. They just did what they needed to do, beat their arch rivals in Carlton, but again, Carlton, I didn't think they're very good, so they'd have to do a whole heap for the Pies. And obviously, North Melbourne were really unlucky to not get the win. I thought surely, when they're up by 16, that they'd hold on. But Sydney just kept on coming at them. And then obviously that controversial finish. You know, a lot of North fans, a lot of people are just saying they were robbed in general. I don't think they were robbed, but they were very unlucky. They deserved the win. Probably the easiest game to tip. But I could see North challenge for a quarter or two like they did last year. I really could see it being the case. But at the end of the day, Collingwood should be too comfortable and win it by 48 points. However, I think actually for my big call, I'm going North Melbourne to lead at any break. And last, but certainly not least, this could be the game of the round. For some reason, Sunday 4:40 games always seem to be the better ones. Adelaide take on Brisbane at the Adelaide Oval. Now, very disappointing the Crows were on the weekend. I thought they would play a lot better than what they dished up. I thought the Dogs would win, but I didn't think they'd be that dominant. And I think they were flat on the score, but they just, yeah, they didn't really provide much at all. I know they had a few outs in the forward line department. I think Walker and Thilthorpe. There were, I think, a couple others, but I can't remember. But I still thought they could have done a little bit better. And obviously the Lions sort of did what they needed to do. Not a lot of talking points out of that game. It was sort of an expected result. Brisbane winning it by around 7 goals in the Q Clash. Yeah, this is going to be an interesting game though, because it's at the Adelaide Oval, and we all know how well the Crows are at home. They're just such a completely different side for some reason when they play at home. Now, when they play away from home, they're average. They're like a bottom 6 side. When they play at home, they're a top 6 side. Brisbane, I think they've certainly shut up the people that have said that they can't play away from home, but they haven't really played any top sides away from home in the last 7-8 rounds. Adelaide are a fairly good side at home, which is why I'm actually possibly leaning on Adelaide. Brisbane also, they lost to the Power at the Adelaide Oval, so I think something similar could happen. They just turn things around. They get back to their best, and I think Brisbane, same with Port as in my previous tip, they're probably due for a loss, I reckon, at one stage. So I'm actually going to go Adelaide in the upset here. They're certainly capable. This will be a really good game of footy. Crows win it by 15 points in a second upset. Big call. The Crows kick 6 or more goals in any quarter of the game. All right, well, those are my tips for round 11. Relatively tough one. There are a few games that are 50-50, particularly the first one. I went Carlton in the 50-50 one, St Kilda, Melbourne, Geelong, Bulldogs, Essendon, Richmond, Collingwood, and Adelaide. Well done to Prime Pies 22, actually, for getting a perfect score of 9 and also a margin of 0. We also got Tori Patricelli, Nick Dacos official, Archie Dallinger, Big Boy J, Down in Oz, and Elodge 66. Total drama. Well done. Total scores. Let's have a look at the total scores to see who's up and about in the competition. So Jack Biddle on top of 69. Jettles the GOAT in second and Studi in second. Jay the God, Sento Fanti, Lincoln Walk, Ginnivan owns your team, and Pasindu in 68. So yeah, just scrolling down a little bit. Kev's Magpies only 2 away from the top as well, so he's doing decent. But yeah, those are my my tips, my tipping comp. It's in the description. You know, the more members, the better. It's great to see all the people joining the competition. If you haven't yet joined for prizes, possibly you can join it now. And yeah, let me know your tips down below. Give us an upset of the round if you want to give me an upset. Like the video, subscribe if you're new to the channel and want to see more of the content, because there will be quite a bit of content coming out in the next week or so with the Dreamtime vlog and then the Goal King Challenge as well. A long anticipated awaited video saying it'll be out next week most likely.